This is day 156 of New Zealand's biggest gap year. It's a challenge where Laura and I decided to do 365 activities all around New Zealand in 365 days. And today we're checking out the Southland Museum. Plus we are trying Southland's #1 specialty. Which, you'll see at the beginning of the video. It's okay. Alright, join me at the end of the video when I'm gonna go over all the questions you had the first time we published it. Today we're starting with lunch in town and a Southland specialty.
So we're at Zookeeper right now, and I'm trying my first Southland cheese roll. It's an extremely complex recipe, which involves putting cheese in bread and getting wine upset by saying no. And it tastes pretty good. Oh, cheese.
Come on, Southland, a piece of cheese rolled up in sliced bread, is that really a speciality? Anyway, moving on, we are going to be going to the Southland Museum today. The Southland Museum is located in the centre of Invercargill and it's surrounded by all these lovely gardens. One of the gardens, in fact, is a petrified forest, so all these fossilised tree trunks that have been found along the coasts of Southland are put on display outside of the museum.
And there are also heaps of sculptures right outside the museum. It really feels that the exhibition is already starting and we're not even inside the museum yet. In no time at all, we are heading into the Southland Museum where we're going to be meeting someone very special. His name is Henry and he is the oldest Tuatara in New Zealand. But that's not Henry just yet, this is Lindsay and he is Henry's handler. Whew, that was a mouthful. So Lindsay is one of the leading experts in New Zealand in the life cycle and the studies of Tuataras. And Tuataras are basically three-eyed lizard. It sounds awesome, right? We'll get to that one very soon. But first and foremost, Tuataras are amazing at camouflage and Lindsay shows us some amazing examples. There are Tuataras all around us in every single one of the enclosures and they're actually really hard to spot.
What makes it even harder to spot the Tuatara is the fact that they can stay as still as a statue, which also means that they're easy to film. But Lindsay is telling us why they stay so still for the whole time, and this is because they are masters at conserving energy. In fact, to save on hunting, they store fat in almost everywhere on their body, including the little lumps on their backs and even in their tails. Tuatara are known in New Zealand as the living fossils or the living dinosaurs, and this is because they are a species that have survived from the dinosaur era. They were part of the Sphendontia family, which have all been extinct now apart from the Tuatara, which shows how resourceful this species is.
The Tuataras are extremely rare to find in the wild. They are actually fully extinct in New Zealand mainland, which is Northern and Southern, but they can be found on 32 different islands surrounding New Zealand. So if your dream is to meet a living dinosaur, there is still a way right here in New Zealand. But let's talk about this third eye thing, because I was super curious about it. So as soon as I got to handle a Tuatara, I asked Lindsay.
I can see the parietal eye on this one.
On the top, under the skin, there's a wee bump there at the tip of my finger. Usually it's covered over in skin, but it does sense the photo period.
Long story short, this third eye is not really an actual third eye. It's a parietal eye which has been reabsorbed as soon as they became adult and just help them see the shadow of bird that will be trying to hunt them.
You know what his name is? This one?
No, what's his name?
Cat, because he has a cataract in his eye.
Oh. It's so amazing that we actually get this close to such a rare species of reptile in New Zealand. We are really getting a super close encounter with the Tuatara, and it's amazing to hear all their facts. It's such a fascinating creature, and it's amazing that they've survived all these years. And now it's mealtime, and Tuataras love their grubs. They usually have a diet of beetles, weta, worms, but they also are known for eating seabird eggs as well as other lizards. And that concludes our amazing encounter with the Tuatara. But the Southland Museum has a lot more to offer, so we're going to go check out the rest of the exhibitions right now.
As it is kind of mandatory for almost every single regional museum in the country, the exhibition starts with a big section about the early settlers, it then moves on to a big section about the World War I, but one of the most interesting parts of the museum is the marine wildlife section, which fascinates Laura and I. In there we can find heaps of stuff relating to the maritime world, from the top of some lighthouse to the bone of massive whales that have washed onto the Southland shore. It's a really awesome exhibition that showcased what Southland was made of. It was all about sailors coming to colonize the way bottom of New Zealand. And Southland is the southernmost habitated area in the world, and Invercargill is the southernmost city in the world. So that makes it one of the best starting point for any sub-Antarctica exhibition, especially the world famous Roaring Forties. And this is why a huge section of the Southland Museum is dedicated to this really wide place in the world. It has lost many sailors and has discovered many species.
Seals roaring at me.
Through interactive displays, we are learning about the amazing landscapes and wildlife, as well as stories of shipwrecks and castaways in the sub-Antarctic.
I do wish you well out at sea.
Thanks, honey.
There's even a moving ship here, which is meant to be a replica of the General Grant, which is one of the ships that had shipwrecked in the sub-Antarctic islands. Throughout the rest of the museum, there's a lot more about the sub-Antarctic wildlife and a lot of interesting displays. And that really just concludes how awesome this museum is. It's a great introduction to the Southland region and an awesome thing to do in Invercargill. Our footsteps trigger a seal, which goes, ah, and then hides back behind the bushes again. It's really funny, but it's quite scary when you're not like, when you don't know it's there. It's pretty scary.
Alright guys, so as you can see, the Southland food specialty cheese roll is basic, at least, like that, but that's okay, it's okay. It's okay. It was alright. Alright, so the Southland Museum, just a quick update before we get started with all the questions. It went under a major refurbishment, so it really look extremely different than the last time, a couple of years ago when we filmed it. But you can still see the Tuatara, so that's already really cool. So yeah, but just be aware that the logo is really different and everything like that. If you want everything up to date, by the way, you can check out nzpocketguide.com. There is thousands of articles that we keep up to date for you guys all the time, and there is some updated information about the Southland Museum on there. Alright, so moving on to the question that you guys had. A lot of people really love the Tuataras. All of them say they love reptiles and all that. And Why in the World says that he's so jealous that he never got to handle a Tuatara. Anna Witter says Tuatara so cute, I love reptile. Then we have Christopher Rodmail that says they're not always that hard to spot. I often know what I'm looking at, especially when a lot of the grass and weed that you saw in the enclosure at the time were removed. I also saw Lindsay just a few weeks ago, so here you go. We also had Christopher. I had an interesting conversation with Christopher that says these Tuatara of ours aren't always that hard to spot, especially when seen from the outside. You can see them easily in the soil and the grass. You can tell which one is Henry due to his look and size. You may know that you can only see these Tuatara from the outside, but haven't seen Henry for a while. Of the hot weather, because of the hot weather we had. Said I visited during some hot days and Henry was in his burrow. So it's a good tip for you guys. If it's really hot, you may not see the Tuatara, so you may want to aim for a little bit of a cold day. And yeah, he continued to say that it is unfortunate to people in all other countries that they can only rely on traveling and the internet to see these rare animals because they're only native to New Zealand, and I found that very true. And AJ says Tuataras are not lizards, and yeah, we may have done a shortcut right here. I think there may be a type of iguanas, I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, we may have done a shortcut, and I apologize to the population of Tuatara around. Alright, a quick plug-in to tell you that we do a live session on YouTube every single Sunday, on which we answer all your questions about traveling in New Zealand. It's at 8 AM every Sunday, New Zealand time. It's probably about Saturday evening in your side of the world. So join us then. In the meantime, see you next time. Bye-bye.